Hey everybody, JC here with another TNI toy review, and today we're going to take a look at Mattel's new DC Comics Multiverse 4-inch The Penguin figure based on the Danny DeVito interpretation of the character from Batman Returns. Now this figure is kind of just slipped out in the on shelves. I believe it was supposed to be slated for Series 2 along with the Christopher Reeve Superman figure, but it appears to be shipping with Series 1, at least at Toys R Us stores. I could be wrong, and maybe Series 2 has actually started to be released, but I've seen no traces or word of anyone finding the Christopher Reeve Superman figure. So if I'm wrong and you've seen that figure, be sure to comment. But I believe this figure has just kind of slipped out with the rest of Wave 1, or Wave 2 actually, of the Multiverse line, not Wave 3. So anyway, this figure comes in the same standard packaging we've seen with all the Multiverse figures. The orange and reddish highlights. The figure's clearly displayed on the card back. You've got a picture of the Danny DeVito penguin on the side, and then the name of the character down at the bottom. And then up at the top it tells us how it's highly detailed and authentic and for adult collectors. Then on the back we have a little brief bio about the Multiverse line, another picture of Danny DeVito as the penguin, a little bio for him. Movie is Batman Returns, real name's Oswald Cobblepot. His mission is to destroy Gotham City's firstborn, specialty mind control, missile-carrying penguins, which of course are not included with this figure. And then we see other figures in the second wave, which are the Michael Keaton Batman, the General Zod from the Superman 2 movie, and Batman from Batman Returns without his mask on. Okay, so let's get the figure open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figure outside of the packaging. Now, as I mentioned, this figure is based on the Danny DeVito version of the Penguin as seen in the second Michael Keaton Batman movie, Batman Returns. And for the most part, I think that Mattel has done a good job of capturing the likeness of the Danny DeVito Penguin. Out of all the movie figures they've done recently, the Michael Keaton Batman and the General Zod from Superman 2, I think this figure captures the likeness of the actor the closest of any of the figures they've done so far. So I think the face sculpt is pretty nice. Now, one thing I noticed is he doesn't have the little eyeglass thing. I don't remember if the Danny DeVito Penguin had that or not. Usually you see that with Penguin, but I don't remember if the Danny DeVito Penguin wore one of those eyepieces or not. But this figure doesn't have it. He's got the top hat, but the top hat is not removable. He's got the hair sculpted out the back. And then he's got like a little tie, you know, kind of a fancy tie and everything. And he's got the long coat, which is made with a soft kind of vinyl material, so you can kind of pull. You can't remove the jacket, but you can like pull it up if you want to. And it's got some flexibility there. Of course, the figure doesn't have a whole lot of articulation, which we'll go into in just a moment, so it doesn't really matter that much. But just to note that it is a vinyl material, it's not hard plastic. Then his hands are sculpted. He's kind of got those penguin fingers, and the one hand, his right hand is sculpted much more open. The left hand is sculpted where it's supposed to be able to hold his accessory, his umbrella accessory, which he does not do very well, which we'll go into in just a moment. And then he's got striping sculpted on the bottom of his pants. They're all black. There's not really any paint tones on the pants, but you can see they've sculpted stripes there on the pants. So as I mentioned, he comes with an umbrella accessory. However, I am not very impressed with this accessory at all for a couple reasons. It comes disassembled in the package, so the top part of the umbrella and then the handle part come separately in the package, and you have to put them together. Now, there's very little detail. Actually, there's no detail on the umbrella handle at all. It's just a brown piece of plastic. In fact, looks like he's holding a stick or something more than an umbrella handle. So that's something I don't really like. Now you just put the top on, you just push it on. You have to kind of push hard to get it to really snap into place. But once you get it snapped in, it stays on fine. But my other real issue with this umbrella is that he cannot hold it very well at all. There's got a thinner part on the pole or on the handle But the problem is the way the hands are sculpted, that is sculpted so when you try and put it in his hand, it's too loose. So if you move it around at all or try and hold the umbrella up, then it just kind of falls. So he doesn't hold it very well at all in the thinner part of the handle. Now they did make a thicker part at the bottom, which you would think would be so he could hold it tightly in his hands. But the problem is that it's too thick and the plastic on his hands are too soft. So you try and stick it the handle with that big part in his hand and it just falls right out because the plastic on his hands are too soft, and so it just doesn't grip it in either hand. So he really does not hold the umbrella very well at all. You can kind of like get him in certain poses where you're leaning the umbrella on his shoulder, or even in a little bit in a two-hand pose. The other thing is the umbrella handle is very short, so there's just not a lot you can do with it. It would have been cool if they had added like an extension piece so he could like have him hold it where you hook the bottom part onto his foot and like he flies like you see in the movie. But unfortunately they didn't do anything like that. So overall I'm not terribly impressed with this umbrella accessory. So another thing that seems a little off with me on this figure is the scale. This figure stands at just about 4.5 inches tall. He is basically the same height as the Michael Keaton Batman figure that they released. And to me, Penguin should not be as tall as Batman. You can just see that Penguin is much larger. He's definitely fatter, which should be, but he's also basically the same height. Now that's including the top hat, but still, Batman should be a bit taller than Penguin in my opinion. And then here he is next to the General Zod figure, and again, Zod's actually a little shorter than Penguin. So to me the scale is not too good with this figure. And then just for one more comparison, here he is next to the DC Collectibles Penguin from the Arkham games, and you can see that even that figure is only a little bit taller than this Penguin. And for articulation on this figure, it's probably the weakest of the figures we've seen in this line so far. Obviously Penguin's not a super agile guy, so I don't know how important articulation really is with a character like this, but this figure definitely does not have a whole lot of articulation. The head has no up and down movement. He can look left and right a little bit, but with the hair and the coat, it's that's restricted a good deal of how much he can turn his head. The arms are attached with your standard ball hinge joint, so he does have good rotation at the arms, and the coat doesn't really prohibit any movement there. No bicep swivel, single hinged elbow, so he can bend his elbow about that much, and then he's got swivel at the wrist, but that's no kind of hinge or anything at the wrist, just the swivel. Then he has no midsection articulation, no crunch, and no twist at the waist or anything. He does have the T-crotch type design, so he can do the splits pretty good, and because the coat is that vinyl material, it doesn't prohibit him from doing like the splits too much. He can only do his legs a little bit forward. Actually, he's got pretty good forward movement with the leg. He's got kind of short, stubby legs, so but he really doesn't have any back movement with the leg. Really doesn't have a whole lot of bending at the knee. That's about as much as you can bend the knee. And then there's no ankle articulation at all with this figure. And then he does have 2 peg holes at the bottom. Overall, I'm not super impressed with this figure. Now, part of it is also, it's just that Batman Returns was not one of my favorite movies. I put Batman Returns probably only slightly better than the George Clooney Batman and Robin movie. So it's like my second least favorite Batman movie of all the Batman movies out there. I really didn't like, Catwoman and Penguin and how they were portrayed in that movie. So I don't have a nostalgia factor for this figure at all. Again, I do think that they did a nice job of capturing Danny DeVito's likeness with this figure. It's out of all the movie figures, I think this one comes the closest to matching the actor's likeness. But other than that, the lack of articulation, the accessory that doesn't work too well, it would have been cool if they'd given us some kind of duck accessory. Here he is riding my dog's rubber ducky toy. which actually kind of works halfway decently with this figure. But anything, you know, a little miniature penguin with rockets or something would have been cool, an added cool accessory, or even an umbrella that, you know, could maybe do a little bit more that he could hold decently would have made it better. But otherwise, you know, like I said, this figure, if you're a fan of the Danny DeVito Penguin or that movie, then you'll probably want to pick this one up just for the likeness and having a, you know, figure in this scale to go along with like your Michael Keaton Batman. But otherwise, I would say this is probably a pass. It is hitting shelves now, at least at places like Toys R Us, so you can start looking for it now. And until next time, I'll check you later.